Hey guys, let's continue painting this. We're gonna paint this in purple, so you could either mix your own purple as you learned in color wheel or use the color that you have available to you. I'm gonna use this purple and I'm gonna use a brush that is not so small and not so big. I believe this is a good brush for bigger areas like here. That's perfect. I know that you guys only have two brushes. One is very small for outlining and one is about this size. I forgot them at the school, so I don't have them here on me to show you. But you have one similar to this that you would use for outlining all the details, and yeah, the other one is, it should be about this size, maybe a little smaller. So start off with that size, don't start with the little one. Alright, so let's get some of those purple in here. And you know, I like to always to test the color before I get it started. I think you always should do that, because you never know if you do like the color or what is coming your way. So again, I'm going back to this sheet that we started testing that color. Okay, this is too bright for me. Like, I don't want my whole dress looks like that. I want it to be a little leaning more towards blue. So right off the bat, when I grab this, I grab a good amount that would last for the entire dress. Right? Don't grab a little, because remixing and creating the same tone could be a challenge. I'm gonna add a little bit of water, and now I'm going to make that base more like a blue purple, right? So in order to do that, I'm gonna need to add a little bit of blue. I'm not shading or anything, I'm just making my original main color. There you go, I think that should be enough. Let's take a look and see if I do like that one or not. Yes, I think this is good. But you see how much I'm trying to kind of mix this? It's important to get a very good, kind of good and balanced pigment across. If you don't do the mixing properly, you'll see some patches of different colors everywhere. So this is a good start, and I gotta move real fast, right? Like I can test it here. You can see how darker it is now. Now to shade that, I am gonna add more blue and eventually black to go through my shading. All right, since this dries kind of quickly, I wanna move as fast as possible. So hopefully I would have a big enough window to finish this before this paint dries out. Okay, I just added more water to lighten it up. I don't need this, so I can put it out of my way. Same with that, make sure you close them. And as I showed you before, we are going to keep all the lights, like the white, on that side. So I'm gonna keep that in mind as I start. The light source is on this side. I'm gonna start with doing some shades on this side. Just doing the border. You know, I could go even lighter than that, and I could have more water. But I think it's a good start. Let's see what happens. All right, so that's my first section. As you can see in the movement, I'm having the lights here, and I'm kind of shaping each of these individual forms kind of thicker on the right hand side, right? All right, I guess while this is wet, I'm gonna jump into my blue and do the shade right now. I'll just add a little bit of blue. You could also mix it with your main color that you have. I kind of like to mix the colors right on my surface, but it's really a personal preference of your style of illustration. There is no right or wrong. If you were doing realistic painting, you definitely want to mix things on the palette, have the perfect color, test it, make sure it's all working. But this is more like fantasy, like this is fashion illustration. And I somehow developed this style to make things, mix the colors right on my final version. So that's the top, almost done. I kept some of the white. I have 2 shades, and I will add the fine like black outline. So that's 3. If I want to go even darker, I could have a little darker shade here, which I might actually. Actually, let's do that right now. So you can use a smaller brush. But remember, I just used the blue right off my container. I don't have that here. It's just only on my brush. So that is my source. I have to get it out down here. Right, so that is my darker color. And I will add the black to this. And I don't want to use that big brush because it's going to cover the entire section. Rather, I use a little brush, mix that with my main. That's pretty dark. I think I should get some more of that color. Yeah, that should be good now. And I can get my 3rd shade very small, right just on the border. I guess I resort to that purple again a little. I think it's too black. And there you go. So far we got 3 shades, and we're gonna add that black at the very end. All right, let's move on to the lower part. In the lower part, it's going to be all purple again. As you remember, here I have a big white for the light source, so I'm gonna keep that in mind. Get ready with my paint. And don't worry about covering your darts. You can always go back on top with black later. For now, I'm just going to cover that entire section with my base color, which in this case is purple. And because the light source is on the top left-hand side, I will have a darker tone right here, right? So I'm applying that just in that shape. Now I want to make this a little lighter. I have 2 options. Option 1, I add more water to this. Option 2, I can mix some white with my color, right? So for this example, actually, let's add some water. I think I'll just go with water this time. Maybe in the next one I'll show you how to mix it with white. Okay, so that's pretty transparent. That should work. I'm gonna apply that right here. And right there on this side, because the light is hitting there. So here you see a lighter color, but here you're gonna actually see the white. Now on that edge, I'm gonna grab a little more of my base color, try to mix it. You see, so you can actually create that shade right there. And I'm lifting up some of the paint here. I think I can make this a little lighter. Mainly because here's the tummy and the light is reflecting on the tummy here. So I don't want it to be all that dark. I'm removing some of those paint. There you go. So while this is wet, I could go ahead and apply my second shade as I did there, like the blue. I'm going to grab a little bit of blue, but this time I don't apply it directly. I think it's safer that I mix it, kind of have a good plan. Because that's a bigger area, and if the color doesn't match, it can pretty much destroy my work. There, so I think that should be all right. And I apply some of that shade right on one side. And I'll bring some of it on this side. Like that, right? And then I could even go to the black and get another shade here. Let's do that too. I'll just grab a little bit of black, mix it with my previous tone. That's pretty dark. Let's take a look. Yep, that's good enough. It could be even darker. It's like a grayish tone. There you go. So when this is all dry, I come back with fine black outlining. You could even use marker or Sharpie for outlining. Last part, I'm gonna work on this section, or I could let this dry if I'm afraid that I could smudge, and kind of work on this other illustration. You know how I went in between the skin color. I could do the same thing, or I could just go ahead and finish this. I think I have a small chance of messing this up because I will be working at the lower part. Plus, I am considering that this acrylic paint can dry fairly quickly, so I don't want to lose that original color I had. So I guess I'm just making up my mind right now to finish this before moving on. All right, so again, we have the light source here. We're gonna keep some of the white. The inside folds are gonna be very dark, and we have gradual movement of light to dark on the top ones. I'm going to grab some water and start with my main color. So I always like to have at least one line on that side, and then I will leave a white. Right, so here's my white. Here's the first shade of purple all the way. And I'll do the same thing for the next one. So here's a decision you need to make. You want to make a decision whether you want to do each of these panels separately, complete it with the shades, and then move on, or you want to do all of it at once. If I was doing watercolor, I would definitely go, like I would do all the light shades and then I'll return with the second shade and third. But this is acrylic, so I'm just hesitant that this can dry. So maybe I'll just do 2 panels at a time. That way the sky doesn't dry on me. Moving on to my darker tone, I'll apply that darker shade right here. Similar to the top, so I don't really explain that much now. Just moving on quickly. And I'm gonna use the darker tone I made just on the edge. Right, so that's done. I guess that was fairly quick. moving on. In fact, I want to add a touch of blue, just the blue directly, to make it follow the upper part. So I'll just add a little bit of that blue right there. Now cleaning up my brush, moving on to the next. So I've got 4 more panels. I'm gonna stop talking and see if I can get that very quickly before my paint dries out. Okay, so far so good. Last part is that I'm gonna darken the inside fold, and I'm gonna do them like in very dark, almost black, but not black because I kind of need to preserve black for outlining. So I'll grab a good amount of black, mix it with my color, with the darkest color I had. So that's, as you can see, it's pretty dark. It's almost black. But it's a very deep gray, as you see. It's not black. Okay, so I have a good amount. And now I just want to make sure all of those areas are dry before I apply. I think this should be dry enough. Now this is wet. If you don't feel comfortable working with this, you have to leave it come back to it at a later time. For me right now, I am going to hold my hand in the air. I'm not resting it on the paper so I don't smudge. Or I can extend my brush to have like more space, and then I could rest my hand. But I mean, it's hard to control. I think I rather to hold my hand in the air. There you go. I think we are ready for the final outlining. Before I do that, I'm going to wait until this completely dries before I'll do that. Otherwise, if I start doing the final outlining right now, I will have a chance of messing this up. So we're gonna continue working on the other illustration and we come back to finish this up.